You will get out of this earthbound state when you rise to the sensitivity of that next planet.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Dispersing the Cloud. We are live. I'm not doing multi-camera right now. I'm just on my iPhone. I'm trying to bust one out. We don't have a guest today. If you've been following me, you know that I've been posting on YouTube all the episodes that I haven't been doing live. They've been on YouTube, so if you want to catch up, you can definitely go there. This is episode, I think we're episode 59. Almost positive. Episode 59. We're going to be talking about Francis Chan's Crazy Love. His book, Crazy Love. I read half of this book, I want to say 2-3 years ago. Never finished it. Awesome read. We'll get into it. I'm going to recap you. On the last couple episodes, I haven't really been doing recaps because we've had guests on. Just buddies of mine that have read the books that I'm reading with me. And so we jumped right into the topics that we're reading. So I'm just going to do a little brief cap of what's been going on with me. And a lot has changed. So I've been in Missouri for a quick minute now. I was talking to a church down here, Memorial United Methodist, back in September. I accepted a job here as their worship leader in October. And that was kind of during my dead period of videos, so some of you are probably just now finding out. So I've been here for a little bit, and a lot of work to be done, a lot of stuff to kind of build this place up with their worship team here. And when I left last, I said Project Double Down. I'm going to have a full-time job. This is actually not it. I have two other jobs other than this one. And so I'm still doing Project Double Down for this year, still looking to buy my first property or first investment this year. Still reading a book a week, still doing that project. We're going to keep this podcast going. All that's been happening. March, so the end of March, which is coming really, really quick, I'm going to have the Singles Secrets released. That's the plan right now. August or September of this year, we should release a full album. We had the EP, and then we'll have a new album, and I believe the title of the album will be Secrets. We're in the process of working on it. Big shout out to Kingdom, band back home, and with David and all the other guys who went on tour with me last year. They're rocking. They're playing some stuff. They're helping me mix the album. That's why I brought them up. I have published another book. There's an Owl on My Car, and it's only available on Amazon. We're going to do probably like 3 or 4 books this year on Amazon, see which ones kind of take off. And based on which ones take off, that's kind of how I'm going to decide which ones to get hard copies of. I was really pumped because I wanted to get a hard copy of this one because my nephew Rocco really, really likes it. And I want him to have a hard copy, but the cost of actually printing and then the return on investment when it comes to, like, you have to physically go out and sell the books. I think that's the caveat that's very, very difficult, and most schools are hesitant to let you in. I think last year I read at like 6 schools. This year it's like 7 schools. And they're all different schools. Once you read at a school, it's tough to go back to that same school with your same book the following year and say, hey, does anybody else want to buy a copy? So that was a little difficult. I still got a buttload of books that I need to sell. I got like 4,000 books left from that large order that I did about a year ago. It was about 6 months ago. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm getting after it. It was a year ago. Holy crap. It was a year I only sold 1,000 books in a year. How horrible is that? But I'll be contacting the schools out here, getting in. Actually, I got a couple leads already to get in and do some book reads out here. This week coming up, I'm heading back to California, and I am going to be doing some book reads back there. So I think I'm hitting up John Muir Elementary, and then I'm going to Plymouth Elementary and a couple other ones in Lodi. I think I have 4 different reads. So I'm pumped about that. I get to go back and see my family for a little bit. That'll be nice. Let's jump into Crazy Love. So Crazy Love is a book by Francis Chan. This week's book was a spirituality book. So disclaimer, if you're not into it, you don't have to watch this podcast because we're going to be talking a lot about Jesus. So what I do is I'll read the book, and then I try to pull quotes that I like from the book. That way you guys don't have to read the full book, and you can kind of get a sense of what you like. And I love doing live stuff because you can leave comments, and I haven't done one in so long. This is awesome. I love it. So, first quote: "If the church would live out..." Oh, I'm gonna go backwards. Instead of people saying, "I love God, but I'm not a big fan of organized religion." This is actually something that I say. I always tell people, I'm like, I'm not a big fan of organized religion. I work part-time at a church, but I'm still not a big fan of organized religion. But I really love Jesus. There's a big difference. And so this book said, instead of people saying, "I love God, but I'm not a big fan of organized religion," if the church would live out its purpose, then people would have to say, "I can't deny what the church does, but I don't really believe in their God." Now, in this particular case, I really do believe in their God. I just hate that churches don't really live out the purpose of what we've been called to live out. And this book is really revolving around living out that purpose and what it means to be a follower of Christ and what it means to live here and put other people first rather than putting your own needs first. Me sitting here is a testament to sometimes in this, I just snorted, that was awesome. Sometimes in this walk, God puts you in some very uncomfortable situations and some places that you really don't want to be and things that you don't want to do. But it's kind of part of the gig. This was a really cool quote. Holiness means set apart. We think when I hear holy, I grew up in church, so you just kind of get this like, oh, reverent and special and all this different kind of phraseology that comes with the word holy that we've kind of put on with our societal perception of the word. It's kind of formed into something a little bit more. In fault, partly because of churches. Really, it just means set apart. It's set apart for a specific purpose, a holy purpose. I really like this definition, and it helps us better understand when we say, oh man, the church, I've heard people say like, oh, the church is a holy place. Yeah, it's definitely set apart for a specific purpose. Another interesting quote that came from that was when in Jewish culture, when you say something 3 times, you're emphasizing its perfection or its perfect reflection of whatever that is, right? So if we say God is holy, 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 he is the perfect reflection of the definition of set apart for a specific purpose, and really defining him in his perfection. The reason the book brought this up, because it was talking about comparing ourselves to God. I always end up in these conversations, I feel like, because people will hear me play music at a church and then they'll pull me down and they want to hear a little bit more of my story because I don't necessarily sound like or look like someone who's typically been in their church playing and singing music. And so I always end up in these conversations about what it means to try to earn our salvation, when we're looking in the mirror. And this was super, super cool. So I always, in every talk that I give at churches, and I didn't know where I read it. I just read, and this is part of the thing. Like, I've only read this book one time. This is the second time going through it, so now I'm never going to forget this. But when I play at churches, I always ask I always ask the crowd, if you're standing in front of a hypothetical God, because I'm not going to assume that everybody believes in God, let alone my God. If you're standing in front of a hypothetical God and you're asked, why should I let you into this hypothetical place called heaven? And you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, I read my Bible, I went to church, I gave to charity, I paid my taxes, I didn't cuss, I did all these things, and we have a name for that. You're finding righteousness in yourself. It's called self-righteous, right? There's only one answer you should be able to give, and it's you shouldn't. You shouldn't let me in. The reason I'm super pumped about this is because Francis Chan brings up a very interesting point about a verse that says our good deeds, all the things that we've done, are like filthy rags in the sight of God, right? He sees them as filthy rags. That seems pretty bad, except for when you really get the definition of, I believe it's written in it's written in Greek or Hebrew. Filthy rags actually means minstrel rags. So I always tell everybody as I'm on stage, is picture Mother Teresa, who is the saintliest saint who's ever walked this earth other than Christ, right? Picture her standing in front of God and holding a bunch of her used tampons and saying, look at all that I've done for you. And God's like, I think I'll pass. So I love that quote. I read it and I was like, I've been saying that for 2 years. And I could not, for the life of me, remember where I read that. And actually, I've been asked many, many times, like, where'd you read that? One person actually, a couple people have actually told me, they're like, it's not menstrual rags. It means they're toilet rags. It means like they're soiled rags with feces. And I'm like, dude, either way, it's not a good situation. Lukewarm people never live by faith. Their lives are structured so they don't have to. I don't want to sound like I'm calling people out, and I don't want to sound like I'm the epitome of what people should be doing, but I get told all the time, and a lot in this last couple months, that, man, that doesn't sound like the smartest decision, Sam. Are you sure you should be doing that? And a lot of times, if you're living by radical faith, you're going to look pretty stupid to the outside world. Unfortunately, most Christians who are walking around saying they're Christians live very structured lives that don't require any faith at all. Another point that was brought up in this book that just really needs to be thought about a lot is if you're living here, right? If you're living here, then you are rich. And there's a verse in the Bible that says it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God than a camel to fit through the eye of a needle. I've always looked at that and I said, man, I wonder how difficult it would be for a rich man to. You're rich. You live in America. To the rest of the world, you are rich. You have creature comforts. You have a car, no doubt. If you're watching this, then you have internet. And you probably have a smartphone that you're watching it on. I'm recording on a smartphone. This isn't my building, but it's freezing but cold outside. And I'm sitting I'm wearing a t-shirt. Everyone's been making fun of me. They're like, California kid is wearing t-shirts everywhere he goes. It's like, why? I'm in my car. I'm in this building. I only got to be in like 20-degree weather for a couple seconds. And my house is kept at a nice 82. No joke. I've been cranking the heat. I'm not playing that game. But we're rich. You know, we live here and we are so rich. We have so many comforts. And we don't want to do anything that's going to disrupt our perfect little plan and our perfect little comforts. I've spent the last 3 years not having a permanent residence, you know, going from couch to couch, going from spare bedroom to spare bedroom, sleeping in my car a lot of the nights, in pursuit of, and I'm going to be honest, in pursuit of actual wealth. Don't get me wrong, I'm pursuing something much, much much bigger than a average income. And a lot of that is so I can give a lot of it away. But I guess the point is, when we're comfortable, we get complacent. My buddy David always says that. And if you're watching the videos that, or the podcasts that I put out, video blogs, whatever, it's all the same thing right now. If you've been watching on YouTube, as I've posted them, you've kind of seen me mention him a lot in the progression of me coming out here. And I need deep waters. You need deep waters. You need uncomfortable situations. If nothing else, just to make sure you can still swim. That's one thing about the ocean. The ocean is unmeasurably deep. But if you can swim, it doesn't really matter how deep the water is. So those are a couple things that I pulled out. Definitely getting outside your comfort zone. Definitely re-looking at your income level and how much money you actually have here. Like if you're making $20,000 a day, you're like in the top like 5% of the world or something like that. I forget what the statistic was, but I remember thinking like, oh my God, that's not much money at all. I mean, we think we're poor here, but we're not. And we do have homeless in America, and we do have poor. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in San Francisco. That's a real thing. But for the majority of us, I think it is a huge oversight of how wealthy we are and how cushy we actually have it. One of my missions is to figure out off-grid living in the next probably like 3 or 4 years, to where I can have a self-sustaining cabin and not have any money that needs to be spent, which will allow me to do a lot with the money that I bring in. Actions driven by fear and guilt are not for what? Oh, an antidote. Sorry, using speak text, sometimes it comes out a little funky. And then the kid can't read. So actions driven by fear and guilt are not an antidote for lukewarm Christianity. He talks a lot about the relationship. It's a father relationship with God. And if you've ever had a father who loves you unconditionally, you would know that there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to make him not love you. But because of that, it kind of makes you want to love him a little bit more. So lukewarm Christianity, or lukewarm pursuit, it can't be fixed by fear and guilt. It can't be. It has to be fixed by a radical change in your thinking and your ideology and all the above. And when that happens, there's a verse that says, we'll be known by our fruit. I'm going to be honest. You start doing some things that don't make much sense to anybody else. And that's not an excuse to go do crazy and reckless things with no guidance whatsoever. I'm definitely not preaching that or suggesting that. But the people that I know that are just radically sold out for Christ do some pretty gnarly stuff, where even I'm a little nuts myself, but I look at what they're doing and I'm like, dude, that's crazy. I've been helping, this sounds wrong, I've been connected with a family that is in Papua New Guinea, and I've been talking to them for the past probably almost 4 years now. David and Emily Rimstead, and I don't know if I could pull that off. Like, they left everything. I think halfway across the country is hard. They left everything and went to a different country across a couple oceans. And reading some of their story of being that far away and not being able to see family and not being able to FaceTime. I get to FaceTime my nephews at least once a week. It's not ideal for me, but I'm definitely not in Papua New Guinea. So, yeah. Oh, this was a cool quote. So, just talking about going on missions trips. I don't know if anybody's ever been on a missions trip. I've been on a couple. And it's kind of one, like, even any traveling that you do with a church, this is how it kind of goes. Like, all right, everybody gather around the vans, we're going to go, but before we go, we're going to pray for safety. And it's just kind of one of the things you do in growing up in church, you just pray for safety. And so you get down and you pray for safety. Well, it's something he brings up, and actually Kyle Idleman talks about this a lot in his book, Not a Fan, which basically changed my life. If you haven't read that book, you need to check that out. That book will definitely cure lukewarm Christianity. So he's talking about this concept of praying for risk. Like, why do we pray for safety? Why do we pray for the safe harbor? Why do we pray for security? Like, shouldn't we just be praying for a closer experience with God? Like, if that's what you really want, but really, deep inside, we really just want comfort. As crazy as this prayer sounds, I prayed it when I first read this book. And when I first read this book, I had a real cushy job making lots and lots of money. But I wasn't sold out for Christ as much as I am now. And I prayed the prayer of, I want a deeper walk with you. I want to get closer to you. I want to know more about you. Whatever may come, I'm down. 3 years later, I'm homeless. It's probably not a good prayer. Like, don't pray the prayer. But I've prayed this prayer multiple times in my life. I prayed it before I made this move. Like, whatever may come, whatever you got to do, I'm down. I just want a more experience. I mean, if we're going to sit here and we're going to say, hey, I believe in God. Like, once you make that statement, if you truly believe in him, then some things need to radically change. Because if you're going to sit here and say, oh, I believe, yeah, I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. That's freaking insane. You believe that there is a intelligent life form, a higher power, that created you and put you here? Holy crap, what are you doing about it? Because that's an insane thing to believe and just go about your life like a normal freaking person. Think about it. Another great quote. Faith is a reflection of what we truly believe. So if you're like, oh man, I'm just struggling with faith right now, then you don't truly believe that he's going to answer in that one thing. Someone says, oh, man, you got a crazy amount of faith to do X, Y, and Z. I don't feel like it. Why? Because I truly believe that I'm supposed to be doing it. So it doesn't take faith if you truly believe it. It's evidence of what you truly believe. I wrote this name down. Rich Mullins. The reason I wrote this name down is because he's the guy who wrote Awesome God. That's the song. It's like a really popular Christian song. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above. Anyway, he's important. Important is the wrong word. Significant. If you've ever seen the movie, check out Ragamuffin Gospel or Ragamuffin Christian. And then another guy to check out is Brendan Manning. I don't know why, but because he's in the movie Ragamuffin, that's why. So there's a movie about Rich Mullins. And Rich Mullins is a musician, was a musician. He's no longer with us. And he gave up, he was writing for all these Christian authors. He ended up having an album himself, and he gave all of his money to the ministry. He signed over the rights to everything that he wrote to a church, and the church gave that money away to charities that he pre-picked or whatever. And he literally lived it out. He drove a very simple car. He didn't live lavishly. He literally was like giving it. It's super significant for me because he's one of the people that I've read about in the past like 5 years since I gave my life to Christ, and really look up to the way that he took his music ministry and what he did with his music ministry. I saw that and I said, man, if I could do anything close to that, I think I could be pretty happy with what I end up producing. And that's not to say that that's going to mean anything, but I felt like it was a pretty legit way to spend his gift. So that's all I got for you guys today. I have significantly less viewers when I do Christian books, but in any case, thanks for watching Dispersing the Cloud. Don't forget to subscribe. I usually leave you with a quote, but I'm failing you. I'm not going to leave you with a quote, or I'll leave you with this quote. I'll leave you with this mindset. One of my friends online he said this year is his year of focus change. Focus change. Changing his focus. Exercise a little focus change right now. And I want you to think about, forget God, forget anything else. Whatever you're living your life for, if you truly believe that, how is that affecting your day-to-day and everything that you do? Are you just saying it verbally to make yourself feel good? Are you just saying it outwardly so people can see you? Or are you saying it, you believe it, you've put it to action, and you're willing to do radical things for that? So regardless of what it is, that's what I'm going to leave you with, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to go watch some UFC fights. Later.
You will get out of this earthbound state when you rise to the sensitivity of that next planet.